times where it's not worked right. So
what's the typical number of people that watch the YouTube videos? Curious.
you know what? I don't know. I'd have to ask David about it. Okay, we're live. And just for information, there are 2 people that signed up to speak tonight. So we'll have 2 join maybe, but they did sign up for it.
Is that for the public comment or for the public hearing?
I believe it's for either or.
Okay.
I didn't look to see it. I think it was for the public hearing, though. I'd almost bet it is.
Okay.
But they'll be invited in at the beginning of the meeting should they request it.
Kim, are you there?
I am here.
All right. So Kim, are you going to call us to order tonight?
No, I believe Sherry's going to get
I
to
get
that.
to do that.
All right. Good.
Not it.
And I will do that since it's 6 o'clock. Do you need to do anything like on recording it or anything like that before I start?
Yeah, I'll set up the recording and I will pull up the flag too. So
Okay.
we are recording now.
Okay. I am going to call to order the Thursday, March 18th, 2021 meeting of the South Weber City Planning Commission. Before we have the electronic meeting declaration, which I will read, we are going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Johnson.
Okay, Kim, we got the flag there?
We do.
All right, you'll stand and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
to
of
the
the
United
United
States
States
of
United
America,
States of America and to the
and to the
republic
for
for
which
which
it stands,
one nation
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with
with
liberty and justice for all.
With the recent turnover in the South Weber City Planning Commission, as of right now, the commission is without a chairperson. At this meeting, the commission will elect a chairperson, and that'll take place before the commission acts on any matter. In the meantime, as the city planner, I, Sherry Fippen, have been asked to temporarily take the lead of this meeting. And so I guess that makes me the de facto chair, and as such, and in keeping with protocol previously established by the Planning Commission prior to the changes in membership, I hereby find and declare as follows. Due to the emergency conditions which currently exist in the state of Utah, and specifically in Davis County and South Weber City, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and due to the recent surge in COVID-19 infections across the state and in Davis County, the holding of public meetings with an anchor location, as defined in the Utah Open and Public Meetings Act, presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. And the risk to those who may be present at the anchor location may be substantially mitigated by holding public meetings of the Planning Commission pursuant to electronic means that allow for public participation via virtual means. And the city has the means and ability to allow virtual participation in the public meetings in accordance with the Utah Open and Public Meetings Act. Now, therefore, based upon the foregoing, for 30 days from the date of this order, meetings of the South Weber City Planning Commission shall be conducted by virtual means without an anchor location. And that's dated today, the 18th of March, 2021. And now, Lisa, our city recorder, will be conducting the swearing in of the new planning commission members. First, we'll have her swear in Jeremy Davis.
We can do them all at once.
Oh, you can do them all at once. Okay. I'm going to stop talking and you guys listen to Lisa.
Okay, all three of you. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
Jeremy Davis,
Do solemnly swear that I will support
do solemnly swear that I will support,
obey and defend the Constitution
obey, and defend the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge
and that I will discharge
the duties of my office
the duties
the
of
duties
my
of my
office
office
with fidelity.
with
fidelity.
Thank you. If you could stop by the city office in the next few days to sign that, we've got them ready for you. Thank you.
Now you're official. So at this point, the next item on the agenda is the appointment of the chair and the vice chair. So at this point, I will turn it over to the commissioners to make a nomination and to discuss amongst the commission who will be chair and vice chair for 2021.
So I would like to throw my hat into the ring for chair.
Oh, very good, Gary. I was going to put my hat in, but if you're going to do it.
You know, one thing I thought I'd consider, as we go through the bylaws and define what the chair and vice chair do, would that maybe impact people's decisions on whether they serve in either one of those capacities? I know we kind of have it as one way on the agenda, but just thought I'd throw that out.
I don't think that would sway me either way.
Okay. Well, I certainly would like to put my name in as well for the chair.
I'll say, being one of the newest commission members, I do not want to put my name in for consideration for chair, and I fully support either Wes, Gary, or Taylor for a chair, and whoever doesn't get it, you guys can fight it out for vice chair. I like that idea.
So Wes, did you say that you wanted to put your name in too? Or you were going to?
I was thinking about it. I can. You know, I've got about 7 years here now. I got about a year and a half to go before my term is up, so I'd be able to do it.
Sure. So, yes, you're putting your name in there?
Sure.
All right.
I guess.
Well, this will be an interesting vote, right?
Just as a point of clarification and a point of order, what would be done is that someone would make a motion for whoever you decide to serve as the chair, and if you want to do both of them, as the vice chair for the year, and then someone seconds that, and then the commission discusses and votes on it. That's how it's done.
All right. So I'll jump in there first. So correct me if I'm wrong in this, the way we do this, but I'd like to make a motion that I, Taylor Walton, serve as chair of the South Weaver City Planning Commission. And I would need a second, correct?
Yeah, someone needs to second that.
How does that also work for the vice chair?
You can do them together, or you can do them separately.
Okay.
It doesn't yeah, they don't have to be done together.
I kind of want to see you guys on this for it.
Does the motion die for lack of a second?
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to have the three contenders, Taylor, Gary, Wes, just give a quick little why I should be chair statement?
If you want to do that, that's appropriate. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See what not? Any objection to me going first?
Go ahead.
All right. So, man, I wasn't ready for this at all. But I feel to be a good chairperson, given the fact that I've been really heavily involved in the code update committee. I feel like I know the direction that that's going, and to be able to communicate updates coming out of that committee to the commission. And I also feel like, given the experience that I've had over the past 5 years on the planning commission, I feel like I might be a good choice to fill that commissioner. The chair lead. Man, I feel like I'm disjointed and kind of crazy, but that's my statement.
Okay, I'll go next. So I've only been on the planning commission for a year, and it has been a year full of lots of drama, if I can be completely honest. Lots of drama, lots of long meetings, and I think we can improve the efficiency of this group. I think we can stay on task a lot better, and that's really why I'm throwing my hat in, is to just see if we can get things to be more efficient. Also, I feel I'm pretty level-headed. I know there was some concerns with how Commissioner Osborne handled the meetings. whether you agree or disagree with what he did. But I don't know, I'm level-headed, I'm reasonable, and I hate long meetings. So.
I guess the reason I would do it is because of the experience I've had with the Planning Commission and serving on some of the committees here in South Weber, particularly the Parks and Recreation Committee. Also, a background I have in planning that goes back many years with Utah State Parks and other groups. So, just experience-wise, and like Gary says, I think our meetings have become quite long. And there's been many times I think we could have shortened them up along the way. Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth.
Well, for one, thanks for that on the spot, guys. Appreciate it. I'm with Julie. It's like I don't want it. So I'd rather wait a year and see how it all plays out before I go that route. But I'll open up. I can't remember the words. Sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
The wording would be, I would make a motion that we appoint fill in the blank as the chair of the Planning Commission for 2021.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to for Gary to be the chairperson for 2021.
I'll second it.
Is there any other discussion on it?
I agree.
If you guys want, all in favor signify by raising your hand, just so we can see what people's votes are. Is there any opposed to it?
So I'm sorry, are we calling for a vote, or how are you wanting to do this?
Yeah, that's why. I mean, there was a motion and second, and then there was no other discussion. So.
Sure.
Jerry, maybe you ought to have a roll call vote, call each member by name.
Oh, that's a good idea. Thanks, Blair. Oh, let's do it that way. Commissioner Boatwright.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Losi.
Aye.
Commissioner Walton.
Aye.
Okay, so Commissioner Boatwright will serve as the chair for 2021. And since that's been done, Commissioner Boatwright, I will turn the conducting of the rest of the meeting over to you. And that includes the appointment of the vice chair and the remainder of the agenda items.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Any nominations for the appointment of a vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Taylor Walton for vice chair.
I'll second that.
I can do that.
Okay, you're okay with that, Taylor?
Certainly.
Okay, any other discussion on Taylor's appointment as vice chair of the Planning Commission for 2021?
Wes, do you have any interest in serving as vice chair, or you're okay? Obviously, with Taylor taking that.
Good.
role?
Taylor's got a lot of background there with doing all the communications with the city council and stuff. So he'd be very good at it.
Perfect.
Thanks, Wes.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner is it Losi? Am I saying that
Losi.
right, Julie?
Yep. Just think of a music note, a low C, and you'll say it right every time.
Okay, Commissioner Losi,
Aye.
Commissioner Walton,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well, so. All right, well, thanks everyone. That was, hopefully we won't see drama on the internet like we did after the last time we did this, just a couple of months ago. So moving on, Number 5, public comment. Kim, do we have folks in for public comment?
No, they signed up for the public hearing. I believe they're not on right now. I did get 2 emails that I did forward to everybody on the commission, and they will be part of the minutes as well.
Okay. Well, seeing that there's no public comment, let's move on to the approval of the consent agenda items. I suspect everybody's had a chance to review those minutes from the January 14th and March 11th meetings. Are there any questions or discussions or concern about those?
No.
I'll have
No,
to.
I didn't see any problem with it.
I'll have to abstain on the January 14th meeting. I was still in the hospital that day.
Okay. Well, seeing no more discussion, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 I
I'm sorry, who made the motion? I couldn't hear who made the motion.
I don't think anybody did.
Oh,
Yeah, I thought Gary maybe did. And
did I did? Yeah, I did. So according to our not approved
Yep.
bylaws, I can do that apparently.
Yep.
Okay.
Like it.
just a quick point of order. There's only 2 individuals that were
Oh,
currently sitting here that were present on the July 14th meeting. Can we,
Correct.
without having a quorum based upon that meeting, can we approve those minutes?
You can. We took this question to our city attorney for the very reason that you're pointing out, Commissioner Johnson. And he said that that is possible.
Okay.
I'm
thanks,
glad you brought
Wes.
that up, Wes. I had the same question.
Yeah.
So who did Walton second?
That was me.
Jeremy.
Well, I guess it would have to be me.
Oh,
So I'd second the motion.
okay.
Yeah, we're just getting off
I
to a great
abstained from
start. here.
the January 14th minutes.
All right, we'll get better at this as we go
Yeah.
along. So.
You guys are doing
This is a
great.
clumsy one.
All right, let's move on to number 7, the public hearing and action on the preliminary final plat, Public Works subdivision, also amending Smith and Edwards subdivision located at approximately 128 East South Weaver Drive. Kim, have those folks showed up in the queue yet?
They have not.
Wait, I have a question. Did we approve both of the meeting minutes, the ones for January 14th as well as the March 11th?
We did, yes.
Okay, sorry, just checking.
Okay, well, I guess technically we have to open the meeting, the public hearing, and then close the public hearing. So do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing and action item on the preliminary final plat for the Public Works subdivision, also amending the Smith and Edwards subdivision located at approximately 128 East South Weaver Drive.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll
I'll
second
second
it.
that. There you go.
I think that was Wes, got it first. So the public hearing is now open. Kim, have they arrived in the last 30 seconds?
Nope, they're not there.
Okay. Well, the comments that were emailed to us didn't have anything to do with this. So I guess we can close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I have a question about this. If a commissioner
yes.
has a question, does it have to be entered in as part of the public hearing, or is it kind of a discussion after the public
No,
hearing?
So as a commission, we can have that discussion, which we will.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor? Say aye.
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 Okay, so Sherry, help me out here. Are we taking action on this too?
So Brandon, our city engineer, is here to discuss it.
Okay,
There are, what I would what I would recommend the commission do, because the project is going to proceed, but I don't want to say a hiccup. There's been, and Brandon can probably explain
Yeah,
it a little bit better.
Do you want me to take that,
Want to
Sherry?
explain it? Yeah, but what I would recommend the commission do as far as action on this is, I mean, you've held the public hearing, you'll have a discussion with Brandon, but I would recommend that the commission continue the item until the April meeting for reasons that you'll understand when Brandon's done talking.
Okay.
Okay.
Built.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon,
Ready?
go ahead.
Okay. So the plat that you have in your packet is exactly what we're working on, and it is ready for final with just one minor change. As we've been working with UDOT for access out onto South Weaver Drive, the exact location of where they would like that to be located, they would like it to be consolidated with one of the accesses that's just west of there. And so we're working to make it, the exact location would move a little bit to the west. So there would be some minor modifications to this. And that's why Sherry's recommending that we take all public comments, because it's not changing substantially, but we take all public comments, have whatever discussion you want, and but we would continue it on to the next planning commission meeting, and be able to have another public hearing there if there was any additional comments. But you'll have it in its final form with this minor change made by the next meeting.
Brandon, are they looking to acquire right of way across the adjacent property?
An additional right of way? No, they would just be moving the actual point a little bit more to the west.
Is that
Wes,
private? Is
if
that
you
private
look,
property?
Wes, there's already an access point onto South Weaver Drive. And UDOT basically wants the two access points combined, correct, Brandon?
Correct.
So
Ours wouldn't be exactly in that same location, slightly to the east, but they don't want one where we're proposing and keep the other one that's just to the west. So we're going to consolidate it into one access. And so we're working with the owners of the Ray property to negotiate that. So anyway, I don't want to draw too much attention to that, only just to point out that it does need to be modified slightly. But everything else is in its final form.
Okay. Another question on Kensington Drive. The area to the west of this property is slated or is zoned residential. Is the city going to put in curb and gutter and standard street for going across the property to connect to the other side?
For Kingston?
Yes.
That would require, currently on the general plan, it does show that road going across. And so before the city could move forward, they would need to do a general plan amendment to remove that street going across. The intent, I think, has always been that Harper, if you look at the way that the general plan shows that road extending to the west and then up to South Weaver Drive, that Harper is the main connection up to South Weaver Drive. When we were going through the general plan, this was brought up, I think a couple of times, and in the end that it was left on the general plan to show it connecting through. But I don't feel that it's that connection is necessary. Harper is necessary, but Kingston I don't believe is necessary. But in order to make it official, it would need to be a general plan amendment.
Another question, since this is going to be public works area, are we going to contact the adjacent landowners to advise them?
They all got a mailed notice for this meeting.
Okay. Any responses?
Not that I'm aware. Kim, have you received anything on this?
Kim?
Kim?
If you're talking, you're on mute, Kim.
I am so sorry. I couldn't get the stupid thing to unmute. I apologize. So-
Did you hear have you received any comment from any of the neighbors on this?
No, I've gotten nothing on any of the neighbors. I did get a couple phone calls asking about what the public hearing was about, and I explained that the city was looking to purchase the property behind the soccer facility for a public works building. And nothing more was asked, and I haven't gotten any emails or anything on it either. So
I did get an email from Kathy Williams. I encouraged her to email the entire group, but it sounds like she hasn't done that yet. But it seemed like her biggest concern was what the city has planned for the future, as far as, you know, the public works there. But I think in your notes, Brandon, the city doesn't have funding to do that. So this isn't something that's immediately, I mean, it's not imminent. But
I can't really speak to when the funding will be made available or what the exact plan is, but I know that the city has been working on getting together an estimate for what that would cost. Get preliminary.
Well, and not that we need to know right now, because right now we're just doing the subdivision. But I'm just saying, I think that's where the majority of the concerns, if this one is a representation of what the community will be, it will be not necessarily the subdivision, but what's going on there. So,
Gary, who did you receive that email from again?
Kathy Williams.
Okay.
And I can forward that to everybody if you'd like, and I probably should have done that. I apologize. Wes, do you have any other questions?
No, that's all I got.
Okay. Julie, I know you mentioned you had a question.
Yeah, I did. And actually, Wes, hey, you must have been reading my mind, because I was just curious about the notice and if there was any comment, especially from, you know, the people that this property is backing directly up to. And I understand right now this is just kind of a plan for, you know, purchasing the land. Obviously, there's no plan in place or anything like that, but I wish there was more discussion and more public input, because I don't want it to come back and be like, well, look, you guys approved this for a public works, you know, development, and now I've got trucks. And I think there's more that goes into it. And can someone help me understand why we're doing, and I understand what it says in our code, that anything that's 10 lots or less, they can have a preliminary and a final in the same meeting. But is that smart? Because if there was something that came up on the preliminary that required an action item or, you know, more investigation to take place, why would we automatically move right into a final? Like, is there a way to separate that out? You can still have it on the same agenda. I just feel like it's kind of putting two things together that maybe don't give it the due process that it needs.
Sorry, Commissioner Boatwright, do you mind if I speak to that?
Oh, no, go ahead. I was going to ask you to, so please.
The vast majority of subdivisions are big enough that they need longer processes because there's more infrastructure involved. There's more utilities, there's typically water. A lot of times there's retention and sewer things that need to be dealt with. Years ago, the state of Utah said, okay, so we understand that we have the need to have a preliminary and a final process for these larger subdivisions. But what do we do if we've got a situation where you've got a farmer that wants to carve off half an acre for one of his kids to build a house on? So they came up with the option, and cities that I'm aware of, no city does not have this as a possibility for 10 lots or less. the numbers may flex a little, but every city that I'm aware of has an option built in for situations like what I just described, where it's somebody that just wants to do a lot split, where sometimes you're not dealing with any infrastructure and the water and sewer lines are already there. And so the cities, after the state created this option, cities have incorporated it, but that doesn't mean that they're going to get approval just because preliminary and final are on the same plat with a small subdivision. Doesn't mean they're going to get approval right away. They still have to go through staff review. They still have to be fully compliant with all relevant city codes. It's just the city saying, you know what, we're not going to make you go through an extra step just to carve off half an acre for your kid to build a house. It's a significant cost savings to people who are doing really small projects. But that doesn't mean there aren't going to be issues that come up, because that's the point of it coming to commission, is for you to look at things and maybe see something that staff has missed. It doesn't mean you have to approve it right away. If there's things that are fundamentally wrong, they go back to the drawing board and fix it. But it's just a mechanism to make it easier for people that are doing really small projects, so they don't have to go through another step and the full scale of costs that are involved with larger ones.
Because I guess my point in questioning this was just with the training that we received last week, where it kind of broke out, hey, during a preliminary plat, like this is what we want to do, is making sure that the project satisfies the intent of the general plan, it complies with the zoning, the engineering, like we've got the staff analysis, you get the public hearing. But I guess it's good to know that we can still kind of table, I guess, or move on to the next meeting if there are items that are brought up, just because it's saying, hey, we've also got a final, we're only making a recommendation and we're done with the investigation.
And again,
There's
with
nothing, sorry.
No, go ahead, Sherry.
There's nothing that it exempts them from having to do. It's just like on these smaller, typically family-centered projects, it just is a benefit to them and saves them a step, but doesn't save them any requirements.
Okay.
As far as what they have to comply with. That's all still there.
Okay.
Anything else, Julie?
No, I think everything else is covered. One thing, Brandon, you might be able to speak to this. So with Kingston Drive, if we were to do a general plan change, I guess, since that is a road that's on there, would that become like a cul-de-sac? If the intent is to have traffic be on Harper Way, and I'm guessing somehow curve and then access South Weaver Drive at a future to be determined point, correct?
Correct. If, at least my understanding would be that if the city does not intend to build that road through, connect it through the property as shown on the general plan, then they would need to amend it somehow.
Okay.
And if you went through that amendment process, then you would either remove it entirely, say that you want to put a turnaround at the end or a cul-de-sac on the end or something like that. Whatever is decided as a part of that. Otherwise, the city needs to build the road through the property as shown on the general plan.
Okay.
Julie, sorry, I need to call everybody commissioner. My apologies. Commissioner
I do the same thing, so no worries.
Sometimes it may not have to be cul-de-sac. The fire code kind of dictates when you have little streets like that are just stubbed, they can be a certain length without having to have a cul-de-sac or some other kind of temporary turnaround. That's dictated by the fire code.
Okay.
So what would happen is Chief Tolman and Brandon would look at this, and they would look at the length of that part of Kingston Drive that goes west towards I can't tell north and south when I'm inside. The part that goes west into the city's property, Chief Tolman and Brandon would look at that and look at the distance. And the fire code would dictate if the city had to provide some sort of turnaround, whether that was a cul-de-sac or some other thing the fire code allows. So it just, whether or not it becomes something, if it doesn't go all the way through, is going to be dictated by fire code,
Okay.
likely.
And given that's all going to be decided at the time that development actually takes place at some point in time in the future. But we're still held to all the city code and zoning. So isn't 2 points of egress going to be necessary?
Well, this
Depends on the
purchasing
use.
this property actually would provide 3, but the city's intent in purchasing this property specifically is to have direct access out onto South Weber Drive. That's extremely important because that's the main access. The city does not want to drive through the neighborhood, so that would be the idea. If we did not have that access, if we were not able to get that access, that would probably kill the deal as far as, purchasing this property. And so that's why it is oriented the way that it is.
May I interrupt you for a second, Sherry? Is this discussion we're having now a little premature? Because right now we're just looking at the subdivision.
It's not premature. Okay. I mean, it's not, let me say, it is premature, but it's not inappropriate.
Okay.
I think there's a little bit of a difference between the two. Some of it will come with the site plan, but things like ingress and egress and proximity to adjoining homes and things like that, those are things that it's appropriate for the commission to discuss, even though it kind of gets into the weeds of the development a little bit, but it's fine. And to Commissioner Losey's question about the multiple points of access, that's another thing that's dictated by the fire code, depending on how trafficked something is, depending on the vehicle load. There's a certain trigger point when you have to have multiple accesses. But like Brandon said, there potentially is 3, but the city has no desire to take city vehicles and equipment through the neighborhood, which is why the primary access will be in and on and off South Weber.
And I think just that comment alone will be hopefully a little more reassuring for those residents over in that neighborhood. So, Commissioner Losey, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Commissioner Walton, I'm trying to be formal here. Do you have anything?
I do have 2 things that I wanted to bring up. Julie hit on one, or Commissioner Losey did. So at this point, I really don't like that our city code allows a 1 to 10 subdivision or lots to be subdivided, where we can do a preliminary and a final. And I would like to take that up to the city council as something that we look to change within the city code. I think we would like to have the flexibility to, do a preliminary on a plat that might be a little bit more controversial than this one. But, would definitely like the thoughts of the rest of the commission on that. The other question that I had is more for Brandon. I'm trying to figure out where we're amending the plat for Smith and Edwards. I didn't see a comment in your letter that said what we're doing to the Smith and Edwards plat.
Right. So the entire property that was owned by Elite Training Facility, it incorporates where the soccer complex is now, as well as what was termed in their plat remainder parcel. Lot 1 is where the soccer facility is now. And that lot goes all the way to the west property line. With the access that we are putting out onto South Weaver Drive, it's amending. It needs to amend that plat because that lot 1 is no longer the same size or won't be the same size with the recordation of this plat. Does that answer your question?
All right. Yeah, it does. So, I mean, the subdivision, so lot 1 went all the way to the north as depicted here, but the amendment really is the access road out to South Weaver Drive.
Yes, it's that plus the line that runs east and west. That kind of north line of lot 1 of the Smith and Edwards subdivision is getting moved a little bit farther north, about 50 feet.
Okay, that answers my questions. Thank you, Brendan.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Davis, you have anything?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Well, as noted by Sherry at the beginning of this discussion, she was recommending that we table this until the next meeting.
It's actually continuing.
Oh, continuing.
Sorry,
the next meeting. Okay.
And maybe we should, that could
Claire-
be another training that we do, like different types of motions. But tabling is you just let it sit there until somebody makes a motion to bring it back.
Okay.
Continuing automatically puts it on the agenda. Like you continue it for a fixed date.
Okay.
Right. So the next meeting is April 8th. So you would want to continue it on to the April 8th meeting. And Commissioner Boatwright, would you mind if I just asked a clarifying question?
Please go ahead.
I'm just curious, in the discussion about this being combined preliminary and final, there's no effort here to try to circumvent any requirement necessarily. Is there anything about this subdivision plat that is of concern to anybody as to why you would want to see it as preliminary and then as final?
Can I comment on that, Brandon?
Sorry, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, my only concern with having the preliminary and the final is I think it's the lack of the public comment. Like, I really am curious if most of the homeowners understand exactly the city's intended use and future use of this property. And I would really like to hear from them, you know, in terms of, hey, I know right now, again, it's just a lot of land, it's an open field, they're probably not really thinking about it. But in the future, if we are going to be putting in a public works building, you know, and again, that gets into the future development plans and everything, but are they aware of what's going to be there, that they're going to be having the snow plows, that they're going to be having maybe the salt reserves, you know, and the other things that the city uses to function, you know, and keep our streets clear and safe, you know, those items and elements will be housed on this property, you know, and I don't know what the letter and the notice that was sent out to all the homeowners consisted of. You know, I would actually be interested in seeing the notice. Just to see, did the homeowners, do they really truly know what's planned in their backyard? Because I don't want it to come into the future going, well, we didn't know, you know, kind of like, no offense, the soccer complex itself, nobody knew what it was going to turn into until it was already built too late. And now we're dealing with the problems. I kind of want to stay ahead of it if it's going to become an issue for those homeowners who already live in the area. That's kind of my thought.
Sure. And we definitely want to be perfectly transparent. That is the intended use, is for it to be a public works facility, as you explained. So yeah, there's not trying to hide that at all.
Brandon,
So,
can I speak
Brandon.
a little bit? This has been heavily discussed by the city council, at least for 3 months, because it's a conversation that I've had with them. From the time I started with the city in December. So it's not, like Brandon's right, the city has been completely transparent about their intended use of that property. I will say one thing as far as preliminary and then final. Public hearings happen at preliminary. They don't happen at final. So there's not a public comment opportunity that's lost out on by combining them. And that's something that's dictated Like, that's something that's outlined in city code, in state law, things like that. There's not public hearings of both of them. There's public comment, but there's no opportunity for public comment that's lost out on by combining preliminary and final.
So, so my year of experience on the commission, there has never been a lack of shortage for public comment. In fact, I think today is actually one of the very few meetings that we've never had a public comment. So I think based on the email I received from Mrs. Williams, she pointed out the future use. I think the city has been transparent, and it's been broadcast. We were going to have a public hearing, but we can't force people to come. And frankly, in my experience in Riverdale, we rarely had public comments. I think South Weaver is a little unique as far as the number of public comments, especially in a planning commission setting. But Commissioner Walton, I apologize, you were going to say something.
Oh, you're just fine. I was just going to comment back to Brandon on his question, and it's not so much about what this development proposes as it is process. I'd like the opportunity to maybe look at that code that allows a lot to be subdivided 10 times and just do a preliminary and a final all in one swoop. I understand that it limits the amount of administrative burden placed on everyone to get that done, but I'm just trying to figure out how we got to 10 and maybe just take a quick look at it. So nothing in particular about the development, just something that within our duties as commissioners, just to maybe have the council take a look at something in the city code.
So
yeah, I will write that down as another code amendment to look at, and I can give, if the commission would like, I can do some research into where the city came up with 10. I believe it's dictated by what the state allows the cities to do through meets and bounds. But I can look into that more and see if I can give you guys some more context on it if you would like.
I think that'd be great. And then I have one other question that I forgot to ask, so I apologize, but I'm curious to know if there's any easements on this property associated with the Hill Air Force Base and noise contours that the state purchased.
Yes, it incorporates the entire property. That
Okay.
easement covers the entire property.
Okay. No, I appreciate that insight. I just would like to have it there maybe in the future when we do memos, what easements can cover the property when we look at plats.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
Brandon, one other quick question. If this was to be continued to the next meeting on April 8th, do you think that the issues with the access points on South Weaver Drive with the Ray family will be decided by then?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, they will. We already gotten, we've already coordinated and got verbal agreement for that, but we just got to get signed documents and things like that. So I don't have any concern that won't be resolved.
Okay. Any other discussion on this item? If not, we'll look for a motion to continue. Continue this item for the next Planning Commission meeting in April.
A second.
So I was looking
Got to
for
make a motion.
Okay, Commissioner Walton, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we continue this topic at the next Planning Commission for this agenda item.
Do we need to say specifically April 8th?
I probably would.
All right. So I'll make a motion that we continue this agenda item on the April 8th Planning Commission meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Commissioner Davis,
Aye. Aye.
Commissioner Losi,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Walton,
Aye.
and I am an aye. Okay, moving on to item number 8, Planning Commission bylaws. Just on the background here, the City Council recently updated city code relating to the Planning Commission requiring the adoption of Planning Commission bylaws. Staff has drafted bylaws based on research from other cities' bylaws and bringing them forward to the Planning Commission for consideration. Sherry, is there anything else you would like to add to these?
No, you know, the council was really strongly felt that it's up to the commission to dictate their bylaws. I know that there was public comment that was sent in with some suggestions on the bylaws.
Yes.
If you would like, I can weigh in on those. I had a little bit of an opportunity to look at them. But that would be up to you if you want me to weigh in on it. Well, I mean, I'm sure you're all familiar with bylaws. They just kind of give you guys, the commission, a frame of reference for just different duties. By adopting them, you agree that, the meetings will be conducted in accordance with the Open and Public Meetings Act, and talks about method of appointment. It just gives some clarity to proceedings to hopefully avoid some of the conflict and uncertainty that has happened in the past. So hopefully by having good bylaws, you'll be able to, it's just another tool to help the commission function effectively.
Okay. Councilman Halverson, is there anything you would like to add since you were part of that group that sent these down?
Nope, I basically thought that it's something that you guys should decide, and you're more than capable of doing it without our input.
Okay.
So, Commissioner Boatright, do you just want to go line or section by section here? Because I've certainly got comments per section.
I don't know if I want to do a group edit job. I think maybe if we just, if you have questions, we can kind of bounce around on that, because I have a couple questions myself.
Gary, did you get the public comment from Paul Stern?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I was just asked that question earlier today and told him I would find out. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that comment was more directed for when we get to the definitions. I believe it was Joel Dills that put public comments in email form for specifically the Planning Commission bylaws, just for clarification.
Perfect. Taylor, I'm going to go back to what you said, and let's go through each section by section.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
So organization, section A, appointment of chair and vice chair. Any questions on that?
I had one, and that was, let's see, paragraph 2, where it talks about a silent vote. I just needed clarification on what a silent vote is.
Open nomination.
Sorry, it's the last sentence.
Under appointment of chair and vice chair, paragraph 2.
Oh, okay. David is actually the one that drafted these. I would actually probably strike that, or I think it could easily be amended.
So when in the past, sorry, I don't mean to step in, but in the past when
Okay, Blair.
you've done we've had appointments of either planning commissioners or to chair or whatever, or when we've appointed a city council member to fill a vacancy, they did a silent vote, wrote it on a piece of paper.
Oh.
Staff added it up. And so that it wasn't an awkward pause or no one felt awkward with, similar to what you felt earlier. So I didn't know that was even in there, or maybe I would have suggested it. I apologize for not doing that, but that is what they refer to by a silent vote, so that you don't have to verbalize it if you don't want. If it comes down to a tie, then it goes to a verbal vote. But if you want to do it either way, that's up to you guys of how you want to vote. It can be verbal, just like you did earlier, or you can do it as a silent vote. Either way, it just sometimes takes that awkwardness or feeling like you're slighting your neighbor or your friend. So,
And I have seen that done in the past, and
So-
it's worked well in the past. I've seen it done several times in our
So
city.
is a silent vote a secret vote? Is that what we're meaning here?
I
Pretty
believe
much, yeah.
The results are it's announced who it is. You know, and there's generally two people that watch the silent vote be tallied, and then it has to be publicly announced who it is.
Okay.
it's a little harder to do virtually.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to ask that question.
Unless everybody closes their eyes while somebody holds up the
But Michelle has done many silent votes for
I
appointed
have.
council members.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but virtually is impossible almost. So sorry.
There's a way to do it if we needed to, but we can move on.
Right.
So
Okay.
Taylor?
No, I think I like that. Thanks for the clarifying points there. So I'm good with section A.
Anyone else
Other
have questions
comments?
about section A?
Nope.
All right. Section B, duties of chair.
So I had comment here too. If I don't want to keep jumping on, so somebody else has comment. I don't want to be the first one to
Go ahead.
go for it. All right. So in item 1 there, review and approve agendas prior to commission meetings. I'd really like the opportunity for the rest of the commission to see what is being proposed on an agenda before it's finalized. Just as a check, and I'm not suggesting that we vote on the agenda prior to it being sent out, but just as a way for us to have visibility as a commission into what's going to be on the next agenda, or even to make recommendations what might be on that agenda. And then some of those recommendations on what will be on the agenda is later in the document, but wanted to get everyone's thought on that. I'm not sure if it fits to have the chair be the only one who can approve an agenda, unilaterally at least.
So what
Well,
you're
this is-
saying is that if there's anything that's going to be on the agenda, it needs to come out to all the commissioners, and then we say, okay, yeah, we agree with that being on the agenda. Or if there's anything that is not going to be, that the chairperson says that I don't want this on the agenda, then the rest of us should have a look at it and a say in that also.
Here's
Sherry?
Yeah, I don't want to create
sorry, I need
administrative
to
burden
speak
there.
I need to speak to a legal concern with that. In saying the entire commission is going to approve the agenda, it's actually a violation of the Open and Public Meetings Act, because that is a discussion and vote of the entire commission, which you can't do outside of a public meeting. You can't do over.
No, not so
email.
much. Sorry,
So-
Sherry, to cut you off. But not have the entire commission approve the agenda, just have the opportunity to review the agenda. The chair can certainly approve it, and I think that's the right administrative process. It's just, give the rest of the commission an opportunity to review it. And then, no comment is a vote of, yeah, it's ready to go. But just to, there's been things in the past that, I felt like weren't ready to be on the agenda. And I didn't have an opportunity to say yes, no, or maybe prior to being sent out, for public view, right? So just another set of eyes to look at it prior to going out.
I would need to talk to Jamie, but I think in giving the entire commission the opportunity to say yes, no, or maybe, that's a de facto vote outside of a public meeting.
Does that kind of cross into the line of?
It does.
Forum?
You get into a legally gray area with the Open and Public Meetings Act.
Can Taylor, can that be just a procedural thing where it gets sent out? If you want something in for you guys to review, but the chair continues to be, approving the agenda and setting it out.
Right.
Sending it out prior for the rest of the commission or a council could be just a procedural thing and not actually in your bylaws.
So,
And the packet, Kim can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that if we need to start doing a draft packet a couple weeks before a meeting, similar to what the council does, if that's not already done, I think that's something we can likely start doing.
Sherry, if I can address that, we always send the agenda out a couple of weeks ahead. We almost never have the information to do the packet because the planning commission doesn't have a million things on it. We don't generally get it that far in advance, but we do send the agenda out 2 weeks before the meeting and the packet about a week before the meeting, as soon as we get everything to put it together. And we can continue to do that so that the entire commission can look at the agenda and see what's on it before I post it to the public. I could send it out on a Thursday and post it to the public the following Monday. It gives them a chance to look at it in case they've got questions.
I think that would be appropriate because, I've subscribed to those public meetings notifications, and sometimes I will get the notification of a planning commission agenda being posted prior to getting it as a commissioner. And, that's the real issue that I want to speak to, is just having the opportunity to make sure that, everything's checking out and it's making sense. And I get where you're going with that, with the issue with the public meetings. But since we should all be using our public email addresses, I mean, any of those documents and conversations would definitely be something that could come together in not a Freedom of Information Act request, but there's a state equivalent. Anyway, I'll defer to the legal counsel on that one too.
yeah,
Something I want to bring up.
I'm going to disagree with you, Taylor. I'm looking, as a planning commission member, I look more towards staff to helping plan that agenda. And, because we're really a review body. And so I'd lean heavily on Sherry and staff to do that. And I mean, even, with the chair, I don't see myself ever saying, no, we're going to take that off, or let's add this on.
So I'd say, without getting into specifics, there's been things in the past that just weren't ready to come before the planning commission. We shouldn't have even been having the conversation. And I get that that's, here we're saying that that's the duty of the chair to set that agenda. But, if we have something that's coming that just doesn't seem like it meets all the criteria prior to, the development process being met, that's an issue for me. But maybe with reviewing our development process and getting some control in line, that resolves itself. But
and again,
it's really hard.
Yeah, again, I'm going to lean on Sherry for that. I know Sherry and I has answered some questions that I've had over the last few months about those issues, and I think we all agree it's an issue that there have been several things that have come before us that just aren't ready. And I think there are some changes that are going to be in place that will correct that.
Is that something that we could really settle? And this is just me, maybe not knowing. But is that something that we could settle in the meeting itself, where we could agree that this isn't ready, so we're just gonna do what we did with the prior item and just say we're gonna talk about this in the next meeting?
Yeah.
And then, okay.
You certainly can. Just because something's on the agenda for similar to with the plat that was on it tonight, just because something is on the agenda, the commission isn't obligated to make the decision that night. Once in a while, there will be a legal deadline that you're up against, but that's not super often. So if there are substantive things that need changed, or somehow I've fallen short in preparing things for you, you do have the ability to say, we're going to continue this and we want staff to do A, B, and C before it comes back to us.
No, and I'm sorry, I don't want to belabor the point. I think we need to move on from it, but I just want to make sure that, like maybe Blair suggested, we make it a part of our procedure or process that those get shotgunned out. It sounds like we're already doing it, so I think we can move on from it.
Okay. Any other questions about section B?
I have two others. I'll just hit them real quick. On paragraph 5, it talks about in the first sentence there that the chair shall have the right to call upon legal counsel. That seemed odd wording to me, to have the right. And the other references to legal counsel, we use other verbiage, that we have the opportunity to talk to counsel. And anyway, just something to take note there. I don't think we need to have further conversation about it. And then on item 9, I just needed a quick description of what this meant. Ensure that the legal due process to all items and people involved in each item of each meeting agenda.
Yeah,
the sentence just didn't quite.
I agree with you on that one, Taylor. That one kind of confused me a little bit. And plus, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't think anybody else here is. So sort of.
I think that is a little bit of a mouthful. I think there's a shorter way to say it. It's just ensure that all due process rights of applicants and the public are protected in the course of a meeting.
Okay.
That's just saying, like, I think it should be reworded. That's just saying, make sure that during the public comment period, everyone that wants to talk when the public comment period's open has the opportunity to talk. Same thing for public hearing. Making sure that the applicant has an opportunity to address the commission relative to their application. I think that's just a mouthful of saying, ensuring due process rights of applicants and the public are protected in a meeting.
Well, let's make a note to reword that. So.
And I think I'm just going to make a general comment. I mean, we're creating bylaws for a planning commission that has not existed before, correct? Like, this is a first draft of the bylaws that we as a commission and as a body will now kind of be operating under. So let's make sure we're comfortable with the verbiage.
Wait, and
I can reword that.
Yeah.
And just so you know, I'm not looking to approve these at all tonight. I mean, there's a lot here that I think we'll probably have to revisit it. So just that's my thoughts on that. So
well, and as you guys go through it again, if you review them like on your own outside of the meeting, if there are things individually you want to send to me, because I mean, you got to be careful about having debates and discussions over email, again, with the open and public meetings. But if there are things individually that you would like to send to me, I can make a red line copy for the next meeting with people's comments and concerns as comments written into it.
Okay. Commissioner Losey, did you have anything else about this section?
Just referencing back to the public comment that was made, and the 2 points that were added in, is there ever a point, just a thought that I had while reading it, is there a point where within the planning commission, we are going to be delegated out to smaller committees? Has that ever come up in past, or is that something that kind of goes back to staff, to address or research or come back to the commission, with, information?
Julie, what item are you pulling that from? Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up.
This was actually on the public comment
from Joel Dills.
From Joel Dills, and it was his insertations, and kind of recommendations. And I know, a lot of what was in the packet that was created by, David, I understand, was from other cities. not sure the source of where Joel was pulling this from, but if it's what other cities are doing, I'm just wondering how often in South Weber do we get like subcommittees of the planning commission that would be tasked with zoning, general plan, things of that nature, and does it make sense to have something in our bylaws that address how those committees get created? Should it be something that the chair, is it one of their duties? Is it something that maybe the chair and the vice chair, kind of create?
So
I'm
I've never
certain that the city code. Sorry, go ahead,
no,
Gary.
no, go. So I was just going to say I've never seen subcommittees just of planning commission members ever. They've always been very similar to what the code committee is, kind of an amalgamation of council, staff, and planning commission. So I see what's being said there, but I just don't know if it's needed. Sherry,
I may chime in on what Mr. Dills had sent out.
In fact, Wes, can I interrupt you? Because Taylor, go ahead. I cut you off. So.
Oh, just real quick. I'm looking it up right now, but I'm almost certain that the city code does talk about how the powers and duties of the planning commission currently, they do have the ability to, I'm trying to get in front of it. Sorry. To pull together other committees. I'm trying to find it. I don't know, Sherry, if you happen to know. But anyway, I feel like it's in there. And if it is, then maybe we need to address it in our bylaws, like Julie was saying.
I can look while you're continuing to discuss it.
Yep. And I can't
I've seen the planning commissioners be tasked by the city council to serve on committees. But it's not been my experience that the planning commission themselves breaks down into smaller cities, particularly where you have professional staff that is tasked with writing the ordinances. And then staff writes those and then they're presented to the planning commission. I think it's highly unusual. But let me, and in some of the comments that came in relative to this little section, some of one of the public comments that came in kind of runs counter to the powers and duties of the planning commission when it comes to public clamor and things like that. But while you guys continue to discuss, let me see what I can find. And I'll look for it, Commissioner Walton, so that you can continue to engage with the commission.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson, go ahead.
One of the comment I'd like to make is the information that Mr. Dill sent out. We didn't receive that till 5 o'clock this afternoon. And it's quite extensive, what he's put together in there. Perhaps if Sherry could go through this and provide a yay or nay type red line on what Mr. Dill sent out. So, like chair shall appoint all committees. Well, do we need that or don't we need that? I think we leave that to Sherry to make a determination on that, and then come back to us with a comments on what Mr. Dill sent out.
So can I throw?
I actually had an opportunity to look through all of it. The powers and duties of the planning commission doesn't reference committees.
So can I throw something out there? Because I'm just looking at the clock. It's at 7:14. We do have one other item available, and it sounds like that there's some comments. I'm just wondering, because Sherry mentioned about having a red line document, if we could, in the next 2 weeks, go through, send our comments to Sherry. Sherry can incorporate that into those and maybe even comment not just on Mr. Dill's feedback, but on our feedback as well. Because, we may be off base somewhere, legally or something. I'm just wondering how would the commission feel about that?
Be good.
Yeah, I like that.
So the only thing that I would add to that is we're also going to be reviewing all the definitions coming out of the code committee update. And so we got a lot on our plate over the next several weeks. So just a recommendation that if we're going to go down that road and provide redline edits to Sherry, that we got a lot of work to do.
I can do it.
That's why she gets the big bucks.
I will say one thing about a couple of his comments that I can already tell you. He added, Mr. Dills made a recommendation about the minutes being posted within a reasonable amount of time. That is actually already required by state law.
Mm-hmm.
So his comments in that section are not necessary to include in the bylaws because it's already legally required. And I think the bylaws need to be as concise for your benefit. I think the bylaws need to be as concise as possible while still accomplishing their purpose. And so like that is the one thing that I know off the top of my head I would not suggest including because like I said, it's already required.
So Gary, I'm in favor of moving on. But at the same time, I'm just wondering, are there other big rocks, big issues that any of the other commissioners saw as they reviewed this document that maybe want to be offered up prior to everybody going out and doing their individual review?
So I actually had one, Taylor, since you bring that up. So the duties of the vice chair, provide regular report to city council on all acts, findings, orders, and proceedings of the commission. That's under C2.
Yeah.
So as I read that, I'm looking to save someone else another meeting. And so I actually emailed the mayor and the council some questions regarding this. I got some feedback back, not from everybody. David responded, Sherry responded. And Sherry, I really liked your comments that you emailed me back about helping to put together just a report that could be sent. But I just that was kind of really the biggest issue, and not an issue in a bad way. Just we're all busy. Do we, Taylor, do you want to go to the city council every month and report? I mean, that's really kind of what it comes down to, the way it's written here.
I had the exact same question. Sorry, I just kept cutting you off there, but it was a note of mine. Like, how do we want to report to the city council? And I definitely see this as a high interest item because I think communication between council and commission needs to be crystallized. And we would really like to give this section some thought on what that looks like and how we accomplish it.
Can I add something to this? Oh, sorry, Jeremy, you go ahead.
I was going to say, since Blair is here, is there something specific that the council is looking for, maybe from us, to where you weren't getting it previously, and so you're really hoping that we go down a certain path here?
And this is the one item I didn't want to respond to.
Sorry, Blair.
So, I mean, and Taylor, and Wes, you're probably more familiar with this. I mean, the whole reason I was appointed as the liaison, I mean, there's a couple reasons. One, we didn't have a lot of staff attending planning commission. We do now. So that's one of the reasons I went. The second reason is we didn't feel like we were aware of everything going on in planning commission. We either had to wait for the audio or the minutes back then. Now it's on YouTube. It's a lot easier for the council members to watch. So there's a little bit of ease for the council members to be informed, but that's why I'm here. I think we used to have the planning commission report to council meeting.
Every
but the reports, go ahead. What was that, Wes?
We used to rotate and get an assigned month that we would attend the city council meetings.
Yeah, and no offense if Wes, you did it, or Taylor, you did it, but the reports were usually only what we asked, the questions. It wasn't truly a report of what was going on. And so we really didn't know what was going through staff to planning commission. We would get a new development and have never even heard about it before. And so that was the intent of creating the council liaison instead of doing it the other direction. But we also didn't want to feel like a council member sitting in on your meetings, because sometimes that becomes awkward if I make comments and it's, some people may think that's the council speaking and not just Blair Halverson. So there's a little bit of, it goes both ways. So, I mean, it's kind of up to you guys how you want to do it. I actually, to be honest with you, I think it's a mayor's decision. I think different mayors can do different things. They can have a council member still come if they want, but the report is, I mean, it can be a number of different ways. I saw both sides of that, Gary. So I don't know. I'm comfortable with having a commissioner come and report. That was why we did it, is try to improve the communication. It's all about communication. It isn't about making someone go to another meeting. That's it.
Yeah.
So, did that answer your question, Jeremy?
Yeah, thank you very much.
So just as a matter of reference, the city code does say a member of the planning commission may be requested to attend a city council meeting to make a verbal report on the planning commission's recommendations. So, I mean, whether we make a recommendation to look at that language to say who's doing the requesting, or, you know, is a verbal report sufficient, or, you know, I don't know. But I think we definitely have the stick on trying to define, you know, what kind of reporting we want to do and who's going to be doing it within our bylaws.
Yeah, I'm with you, Taylor. I think we just need to make sure that whatever we're reporting out is really what's needed for the council to stay informed. I think if we accomplish that, then I think our actual presence at certain meetings is probably not needed, and it could be a one-off kind of situation.
My 2 cents on this, I think if we have the vice chair be the one that's reporting, Taylor, you had mentioned earlier that when you served in the vice chair position, you felt like you didn't have anything to do unless the chair was not in attendance. This now gives something for that vice chair in terms of reporting. And I think it shows that, you know, we are conducting business open in public, you know, and letting everybody know of the decisions and kind of the reasoning behind, you know, why we are making a recommendation. Or in the case that we have a decision that, hey, maybe we've got a couple council members, or not council, planning commission members that aren't in favor, you know, those reasons are presented to the commission, you know, or to the council, sorry. You know, I don't think it's a bad thing for clarity.
See, and that's where I'm going to disagree a little bit. That's what minutes are for. And I understand that minutes aren't as timely, because, you know, the minutes, you know, what we discussed today, we want to approve for a month.
Sure.
But
right.
But I don't know. It just seems like a duplication of effort for me. And like, you know, Blair pointed out, you know, these are on YouTube. I mean, I don't personally go to every city council meeting, but I'll scroll through, you know, the videos. I don't know. I understand why the council is asking this. I just think there's a more efficient way to do it. I just don't know what it is.
So I know we want to keep moving, but I really see this as just providing an executive summary, whether that's in a written report, an email, or going to a city council meeting. I think that's up to us to decide. But I think we can definitely utilize staff recommendations to prepare that executive summary. We outline where everybody stood on votes and see where that goes. If that's a sufficient product to the council, great. But I definitely agree with you. I think feedback from council on how it's working or how they'd like to see it work would be great. But I think we can at least summarize it in our bylaws and how we're going to accomplish it now.
So Taylor, who would you see as writing that executive summary?
Well, I don't know, Sherry, I want to get your thought on this, but I mean, being part of other planning departments, it was quite common for, you know, a member of the zoning staff or economic development director or something of that nature to write a findings of fact document after a decision had been made or a review of certain proposals. And we could certainly take those findings of facts and summarize them into an executive summary and have that as a written document. It's pretty much a copy and paste. And mainly, though, I wanted to get your thoughts on what you've seen in other municipalities.
I've seen a variety of things. I've seen where it's just on the council to read the minutes. I've seen, and this is something that I suggested to Commissioner Boatwright, I've seen where there is a report after each meeting of actions taken. So basically like findings of fact, but then there's also a section ongoing projects, you know, like there's current projects, future projects, and a summary of actions taken in the meeting. And then if the council wants to know more about the specific deliberations, they go in and watch the recording or look at the draft minutes. Because typically there's not a huge difference between draft minutes and the adopted minutes. You know, especially when you have the excellent staff working on that the city does. There's not a whole lot of difference that happens between the two. So they do have minutes available, even if they haven't formally been adopted. I've seen things like quarterly joint city council planning commission meetings where they talk about things. It's just like a workshop meeting where they talk out what's been going on planning commission. I've seen a variety of things. You know, another thing that I said to Commissioner Boatwright is I understand when the hesitancy comes in to be in there physically and report, because there's sometimes a perception that it almost turns into an interrogation where the representative commissioner is expected to speak to the motives of other commissioners instead of it just being a statistical or factual report. You know, I understand the concerns with having a commissioner report to the council, with having a council member present at planning commission. I've seen all those things work well and not work well. It just, I mean, it is kind of dependent on, it's just going to be, I think you're just going to have to try something and see if it works. And if it doesn't, then you change it, try something else, so long as that reporting is happening somehow. You know, I think the executive summary, findings of fact, and a report on current and future projects, I think is a good place to start.
Okay.
If it needs to be more than that, it can be more than that.
I think that gives us plenty to chew on as we try to figure out what that bylaw is going to look like. Yeah. So thank you.
So just looking at the clock again, it's almost 7:30. Still have another item. People want to continue with this, or do we have a motion that we'll continue this and maybe submit feedback to Sherry, and she can compile those red line items? And
so I just want to bring up one other item because I think it would be important to have staff's perception of this or be ready for it by our next meeting. And that was, oh gosh, this is under public hearings, and it talks about the chair has to have the ability to discontinue the receipt of public comment when things get crazy. Just summarizing that a little bit. And I just didn't know if that was something that we needed to back up in code and not so much as a bylaw, but I just something to maybe put a pin in and be ready to discuss next time we come together. But that one just seemed like, you know, how does that work? if the chair decides to ask somebody to leave a public meeting, you know, there's a lot of questions revolving around that one, and I don't want to stick to that point or dwell on it.
I'll talk to Jamie about it. You already have the ability to do that, to terminate a public hearing.
Right.
You feel that if personal attacks, I believe that the city already has basically a code of conduct for public hearings. And there are already some things in place that protect the right of the chair to terminate a public hearing if it becomes unruly, to cut people off if they're making personal attacks. I believe there are already some of those things in place.
Okay. No, I think just so long as we're ready to have that conversation next time we meet, I think that would be really great to have, because some of that was news to me. So I think what you recommended would be great, just to have an additional conversation about those rights, protections, how it works.
Yeah.
Sorry, Commissioner Boatwright, I didn't mean to
No, you're fine.
keep it going, but I'm done. I promise, I'm finished. In fact, I'll make a motion that we move on to the next agenda item, which was, let me see, review of City Code Title 10 definitions.
Just to clarify, do we want to continue this in the next meeting? I assume that was implied in your motion, Taylor, but just want to make sure.
Do we have to make a recommendation on that?
Yeah, sure.
Hold on, let me look at the.
Okay, yeah, there's really no action on that.
No, so just a discussion for our sake.
Okay.
And then just for clarification, are we supposed to send all of our comments and our inputs on the Planning Commission bylaws directly to Sherry? Or are we to copy all of the commission members on the email? How do we best go about giving our input so it doesn't become a nightmare?
Send it to me. If you want to copy the other commissioners, that's fine, but it can't turn into a discussion, because that's a discussion outside of a public hearing.
Right.
So do you mind if I give you guys a deadline?
Go ahead.
Yeah, please
If
do.
possible, so that we can get these comments incorporated in the packet out. If possible, if I could have them by the end of the day on the 26th, to give me time to coordinate them all and put them all into a document. Because what I'll do also is check for, like, if there's 3 of you that send me the same comment, I'm not going to put it in there 3 times. I'll make the one comment and then put under who sent in the comment.
Perfect. And one thing, Sherry, I just had a question. Where are these bylaws going to be placed? Like, is it going to be in city code?
No, they're not codified. They're an adopted document. They'd be available to the public. We'd keep them here at the city. Each of you are provided with a copy, but they're not codified.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
On a follow-up on that, Gary, could we do the same thing with the Title 10 definitions? Provide our inputs back to Sherry and the rest of us if so desired?
Well, let's move on to City Code Title 10 definitions. Taylor, I'm wondering, do you want to summarize this since you've been neck deep in this and let us know what's going on here?
Certainly, to the best of my abilities. So this has been a pretty laborious effort. I think we've had probably no less than 7 or 8 meetings to try to hammer out the definitions found within Title 10 as they relate to land uses or common structures or terms within Title 10. So, sorry, I'm just scrolling through our packet to get to this front page that David provided. All right, so I'll just read this, the background paragraph, second paragraph, where it says the code committee, our update committee will bring its work product to the planning commission as various pieces are completed. The first of which is an update to the code 10-1.10 for definitions. Planning commission will be able to review the suggested changes and recommend those changes to the city council or recommend the changes and or amend the changes and recommend the changes they see fit. So I'm trying to remember, this has been in our inbox for a while now to review. So I don't know how many of you have had an opportunity to look over the definitions and see if there are any items of concern or questions that you might have as we've tried to define things. But definitely, go ahead, Gary, sorry.
So the question I had, so there's some red lines on here. Am I assuming correctly that if there was no changes, that those are existing definitions, or are these all brand new definitions?
No, there's two copies of it.
Oh,
There's a clean
that's right.
copy of
That's
first.
right.
And then there's a second copy that's the red line that shows you the changes. And one thing I want to say, and I apologize if this is duplicating something that Taylor said, but this is a two-part thing. There's the definitions, and then you're going to see the land use chart. Just because something is in the definitions does not mean it's going to appear as a permitted use on the land use chart. There are some things that we define specifically for the purpose of not allowing them, so that someone can't come in and say, well, this is actually a square when we know it's a triangle. Like, they can try and get around the city like that. So we've got some definitions that are there so that when somebody brings in something that's not allowed, we have the ability to say, this is what it is, and this is why it's not allowed.
So Sherry, I'm only able to look at the packet that we have, and I don't know if we've sent out a copy of the matrix to the rest of the commission that land use.
It's not.
Because I mean, okay. Because I certainly feel like that's helpful.
We're tackling this whale in bite-sized pieces. The first thing we're going to do is look at the definitions and discuss what things are. And then once we've got a good chunk of the way through that, then we'll bring the land use matrix and talk about where they're going to go. And the code committee is still working on the matrix, but we feel really comfortable with the definitions.
So thank you again for pointing out the two documents. There wasn't a hard break between them. They kind of melded together.
Yeah, sorry, there should have been. The clean copy goes through page 52, and then starting with page 53 of the packet, that's where you get into the red line.
I'm sorry about that. I should have had a separate section. I apologize.
That's okay, Kim. So I know, I just speaking for myself, I commend what Taylor and the code committee's done. I really don't have any questions or concerns from my viewpoint, but I'll open it up to the rest of the commission for comments.
So Sherry, before we open it up, there were some of these definitions that we wanted the planning commission to specifically weigh in on, and I'm not seeing those comments in the definitions that were provided.
It wasn't the definitions that we wanted the commission to weigh in on. It was the use and where they would go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't the definitions. It was, okay, we've got like motel defined or hotel. Let's let the planning commission decide make a recommendation on where we want them if we do. But it wasn't the specific definition of it.
We've been through this list so many times that my mind's a little fried on just where we made those comments. So.
Yeah, I had a question specifically on, I believe it's page 50, where it talks about the tiny home. And it basically says to see recreational vehicle. As soon as you go and you look at the recreational vehicle, I mean, it kind of includes what travel trailer, camper, boat, watercraft, tiny home, and other similar type vehicles. A question I had about that is a tiny home is not constructed for travel on a public thoroughfare, on a public road, in accordance with, Utah Vehicle Code provisions. So why are we saying that a tiny home is a recreational vehicle? And the reason I'm curious about this is I think it's something that with the accessory dwelling conversation that's been happening in the legislature and the bills, and this is something that is going to be brought up for discussion. And I'd really like to be able to point back to our definitions to say, well, this is how we are defining a tiny home. I think even right now with our proposed RV park, we have movable cabins, correct? Like, how does that now fit within the definition? So that was a question that I had that I'd be interested in hearing kind of the reasoning for putting that under recreational vehicle.
So Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the intent here was to say that a tiny home is recreational because it should have like a chassis that can be set on a trailer, or it has axles, or it is movable by definition. So that is the only tiny home that would be considered within the city. So the hope was to clearly define it as a recreational vehicle and nothing else, and not something, because what you stated in the beginning about it not being, forgive me if I'm not getting the term right, but not being able to be permitted or licensed as an RV.
Not constructed for travel on a road. Like a tiny home isn't meant to be driven from one place to the next place, is my understanding.
Yeah, I think we probably want to dig a little deeper into that.
I've seen people put a tiny home in the bed of a truck. I've seen them put it on a trailer and pull it behind their truck. I think the intent of that is, if someone wants to put it on a foundation and like actually make it a permanent dwelling structure, that's different than if they leave it on a towable not towable foundation, but if they leave it towable and on something with a chassis.
On an axle. Well, we've got that with mobile homes. Mobile homes are still on an axle. They're just set on a cement pad, but it's still a mobile home because at any point in time, you can go on, you can attach it, you can put wheels on it, and you can transport it to another location. That's not what I would consider a home on a permanent foundation to be. So I guess maybe this is just something, and again, trying to keep an eye on the clock and time and not having this meeting go on forever. I think I'd like to kind of delve into that one and maybe further define it if we can.
Yeah, that's fine. We can look more into that one. I will tell you, the thing with accessory dwelling units ended up, the version that ended up being passed, drastically different than when it was started. Yes. It is now only related to, for lack of a better term, basement apartments. So tiny homes, no longer a part of the conversation when it comes to accessory dwelling units. It's all contained inside a house. So the concern about people being able to put tiny homes or an apartment above a detached garage, that kind of thing, those did not survive the conversation at the legislature.
That was all I had.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments?
Just a couple of quick ones here. We define an acre as 43,560, a half acre, 21,780. Shouldn't we also define a quarter, fifth, and a third of an acre, since a lot of our building lots are set on those sizes?
Besides acre and half acre, it then goes down to 12,000 square feet or 9,000 square feet or 7. So except for half acre and acre, the rest of the required lot sizes aren't fractional.
Okay.
That's why there's only those two in there.
Those two, all right.
Yeah.
Anything else, Commissioner Johnson?
been trying to find it. It used to be in our code somewhere about AUMs, about how many various animals each individual can have on their property. That might be a good thing to include in here. A discussion on, a lot this size in this zoning can have up to 2 AUMs, 5 AUMs, or whatever, animal units.
That's actually a separate ordinance. This
Okay.
is just defining terms. This is not regulating anything.
All right.
So, yeah.
So
Animal land
if I
use is a whole separate ordinance.
Wes, I know your point's well taken. It was a part of discussion when we had our meetings, and it was decided that when we're speaking of definitions, that we're going to leave the definition section devoid of any regulation. We might reference a regulation, but we were really trying to write out any regulatory language out of the definition section.
That's good. That's good.
Anything else, Wes?
That's all I got.
Commissioner Davis, do you have any comments?
I'm with you. I think they're pretty thorough. I don't have any concerns with what was written.
Okay. So, or Taylor, sorry. Anything else you want to add?
No, I just want to publicly thank everybody who's been involved with this these updates. It's been a lot of work, and this is just the formation of a lot more things that we need to carry forward. So please, if you have questions as you review this or as we send other things out for your consideration, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or any of the other committee members if you have questions.
Okay. So Sherry, on this, is the committee just looking for our endorsement or a thumbs up? We're not voting on anything.
No, this is just a discussion thing.
Yeah.
I will get some more. I will put some more context into tiny homes because I understand where Commissioner Losey's concerns are coming from. So we'll definitely put some more clarity in there so that we know what they are and what they aren't. So basically what's going to happen, and we're still trying to figure out what the best method for all of this is going to be. Over the course of the next few months, basically all of Title 10 is going to get redone. It's a little bit of a Herculean task, but that's what I'm here for. So we'll get it done. But what we're going to do is, if you guys, with the exception of needed clarification on tiny homes, if you guys are okay with the rest of this and give an informal good job, like a thumbs up to it, then this probably won't come back to you again until we're ready to have a packet of things to be voted on.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That does. That does.
You guys
So
okay with doing it that way?
I'm okay, but I'd like the rest of the commission, their thoughts.
Sounds
on
good to me.
I'm good.
Okay.
Well,
So
if I can just add one other thing, like this for context purposes, I will say that when we were considering the definition of basement, I bet you that was close to a 30-minute conversation.
oh my God.
And so there's a lot that's gone into this. Certainly what's coming out of the committee is not gospel by any stretch. And seriously, if there's things that just don't line up or you feel like you want to comment on, definitely we want the recommendations and comments coming back. So don't just assume that we're looking for a quick approval of all these definitions, because there's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
Well, Commissioner Walton, I think the little conversation we've had is commendable. You guys have done a good job on this, so I think that shows through this. And so everybody did a thumbs up on what Sherry recommended. So unless there's any more comments on this, I think we can move on.
Okay.
Okay, well, item number 10, Planning Commission comments. I'm going to start, if that's okay. First, I would just like to to thank Rob and Tim for the service that they gave. I always appreciated their insight, their counsel. I also appreciated their directness, and I know that rubbed some people the wrong way, but you always knew where they stood. But I'm just grateful for those two men and able to serve with them, and got to know two good people here in South Weaver. So just appreciative of them and their service, and we thank them for all they've done. So Commissioner Davis, any comments?
I'm good. Thank you.
Commissioner Losey?
Yes, I have a couple just comments really quick. More housekeeping. First, I spoke in error on we were discussing the Planning Commission bylaws. There was a comment that was made that was asking to remove gender from when we were talking about like spokesperson and using that verbiage. And so I just wanted to correct what I said and apologize for not bringing that up at the right time. The other two items are probably more like having to do we have a time frame in mind for when we will start meeting back in public office in chambers in person, or how long we plan on continuing with Zoom, just with regards to public comment and people being able to come in person? Do we have an idea on that?
I don't know if we've ever talked about it. Oh, Sherry, go ahead.
I can address that a little bit. I don't want to put Commissioner Boatwright, on the spot or anything like that. The state of Utah, the mask mandate expires on April 10th. Once that mask mandate has expired, it becomes, we don't have the recourse anymore to not have an anchor location. Because it will have been determined that the conditions of the pandemic are such that in-person meetings can be held again. So it's up to the chair to decide. And like I said, I don't want to put Commissioner Boatwright on the spot. That's something for him to, if he needs to talk to Jamie or something like that, he can. But after April 10th, we don't have the same recourse to continue having the meetings over Zoom. So that would be something that, if you want me to start an email chain with you and Jamie so that you as the chair can make that decision.
Well, our next meeting is April 8th, correct? Right. So I would say let's go ahead and meet on Zoom on April 8th, and then Sherry, I'll reach out to you and we can go from there. Okay. So is that okay, Julie?
Yeah, that's fine. I was just wondering if there was any time frame, any discussion taking place. And so, and again, I want to do what, is going to be right for everybody on the commission, and being aware of everybody's situations. I just, at some point, I'm hoping that we will be able to get back to meeting in person and still maybe able to take safety, measures for everybody's health so that everybody feels comfortable participating however they need to. So
and the good thing is the governor announced today that everyone 16 and over will be eligible for vaccines on March 24th. Now, eligibility and actually getting a shot, that might be two different things, but we'll see what happens. So, okay, anything else, Commissioner Losey?
Yeah, the only other thing was just, I noticed on the city website that the emails for both myself and Commissioner, Commissioner Davis haven't been updated. Is there a way to get that? That way, as we're starting to get public comment and emails, they can be directed through the city website and the city emails.
Yeah, I'll make sure that that's taken care of.
Okay, thank you. And that's it. That's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Walton.
So to carry on a little bit of what Commissioner Losey was addressing with returning to public meetings, I'm just wondering, not so much that specifically relating to COVID, but it's been a question in the past about remote participation by the members of the commission. and maybe we write that into the bylaws to say either yes or no. I think providing some flexibility based upon where we are coming out of the pandemic, it might be appropriate to put in something into the bylaws about, do we allow the members of the commission to participate remotely? Because, again, it was brought up in the past.
I can find
Just
out.
triggered.
I can find out from Jamie if there's anything that would prevent that, anything that we need to be aware of if we're going to consider that as an option.
We did add it to city council, so.
Yeah. I mean, if someone's traveling, I mean, the last year has shown that it's easy to zoom in and, without having to miss a meeting. So I
will say it's a lot better than having, I remember Kent Heyer trying to phone in on the phone. I think our audio visual abilities are a lot better than that. So.
Agreed. Anything else, Taylor?
And I just had a question generally of staff. I haven't heard anything about the Air Force's compatible use plans and anything specific that the Planning Commission needs to be made aware of as they look at our land uses.
Will you send me that?
Oh, I was, so hopefully, I don't know where you might be in understanding like where that might be, but my understanding is that the city of Layton was sponsoring a compatible use plan for all the surrounding municipalities around Hill Air Force Base, and they were going to look at all of our land uses.
I thought that was something you had.
No, I just know that it's an ongoing study, and I just hadn't heard anything to know where they are in it, especially as we try to review Title 10. I was just curious to know if there's anything of consequential updates that need to be brought up.
Taylor,
I will get into it and find out.
I can communicate with Sherry on that. They reached out long ago, but I haven't had any updates for a long time. So I'm glad you brought it up. We can try to be proactive and reach out to them.
Great. And if it's okay, like I was on the initial review of getting that the initial use plan going on an Air Force front. And so I have some points of contact that I can reach out to. I know that they were soliciting feedback from the cities. I'm more than willing to step into a more active role if it's desired. So anyway, I'll let you guys run with it, but just know that I'm willing to help out more.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah. Anything else, Taylor?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson.
The Parks and Committee, we had a meeting a while back. Looks like the dog park is supposed to open up on March 28th if the sod takes place over there and firms up. There is some rules and regulations that will be posted over there on that. And also,
Wes, let me interrupt you. It's May 28th, not
May
March
28th now? Okay. Then the underpass under Highway 89 next to the Weaver River, that, if I'm not mistaken, Brandon, that's going to be later this year. They may be starting that.
Are you talking underneath 89?
Under 89, yeah.
Next summer.
Next summer, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
What I've been told.
Okay.
Not firmed up yet.
Yeah. That's going to be our extension of the improvements on Highway 89 will be that underpass. So,
yes.
Yeah. That's all I've got. Other than say I've got my second COVID shot a couple days ago. I'm still standing upright.
Good.
No 11 fingers or anything developing that shouldn't be there naturally. Which is
Oh. All right. Well, Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Kim, Michelle, and Blair and Brandon. But if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Somebody has
I'll
to
make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Do we have a
I
motion? Do
second.
we have a second? Jeremy? Okay. Well, we stand adjourned.
I was
Thanks,
gonna say,
everyone.
Gary, you make it sound like you're always making the initial motion, so that's why I think we're all ready to jump in and say we second.
Yeah, I'll rephrase my language, come up with a new phrase to do that. So,
Okay.
all right. Thanks, everyone.